has returned.
When I mention the game genre of grand strategy and 4x turn-based strategy, you would most likely expect certain features in the game, like a giant world map, and the ability for different types of gameplay, like building cities, controlling massive armies, and being able to win not just through your military, but through using research and diplomacy. Now, if you ask most people who are fans of the genre to name a 4x strategy game, you would most likely get the answer of Civilization, or even the Total War franchise. However, more than ever, we are seeing games start to be released that try to stand out and carve their own slice of the 4x strategy genre. You can even see this on console with the recent releases of Humankind and Conquest of Io, which I've also recently reviewed. While Age of Wonders 4 is clearly not a new franchise, it definitely attempts to bring something new to the genre. But before looking at what Age of Wonders 4 is, and how it fits into the overall genre, we should probably quickly go over what some 4X and grand strategy games already offer. Firstly, in the genre, you have a game that nearly everyone knows, and at this stage, has probably been ported over to as many devices as Skyrim. Seriously, this game is on Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, the Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and Android devices. But Civilization 6 being on all these devices is also one of the major reasons it's maintained popularity. That is because, for better or worse, Civilization is an extremely streamlined and accessible 4X strategy game that really is easy to play, yet hard to master. But where Civilization 6 has carved out its spot as a more accessible experience suitable for new players to the genre, on the other side we have Paradox Development Studio games like Stellaris and Crusader Kings, which give you numerous in-depth systems and a variety of different player choices. However, these games can also feel like an Excel spreadsheet to a lot of players, and it's hard to argue against that when their games have hours upon hours of tutorials on YouTube. However, once given those time investments, these games provide almost unparalleled gaming experiences compared to anything else in the genre. So how does Age of Wonders 4 compare? What does it do and give players that are different from all the other games that I've mentioned? But before that, if you haven't played a 4X game before, don't worry, because I'll briefly go through what Age of Wonders 4 is. I'll go over the positives, the however's, and my overall thoughts. So, let's enter the realm of Age of Wonders 4.
Seeking lost magics and new realms to conquer.
So what is Age of Wonders 4? At its core, Age of Wonders 4 is a 4X strategy game where you play on a fantasy-generated world map that has an overworld on top and underworld full of caves underneath. On the map, you'll have other players, neutral cities, random enemy mobs you can defeat, random events, ancient wonders which provide massive benefits if captured, and of course you have different resources that you gain through expanding your territory. You start the game off with a city and an army led by your upgradable hero/general. And like most 4X games, you will need to manage a range of different resources and currencies to grow your empire, like food, gold, draft, imperium, mana, knowledge, and also production. All these resources and currencies play different roles in the game and move the player towards a certain playstyle. While you'll need to ensure that you're getting all of them, you may decide to focus on more specific areas. So for example, you may focus on increasing your food income so you can quickly grow your population and expand your city and gain more territory. Or you may focus on getting more Imperium so you can build more outposts, cities, or just increase relations with neutral cities. The game also has a research system, however instead of technology, you research tiers of spell tomes, which will give you stronger spells, which you can use to do things like give units poison arrows, increase production in the city, unlock stronger troops, or even just damage enemies. But I will go further into this system later, as it plays a major role in the game. To help change your playstyle for each match, the game has Empire Management Tree upgrades. Think of it like culture in Civilization games. There are multiple different paths you can choose that help you focus on a more specific playstyle for that match. So for example, in one game, you might want to focus on expanding your population, so you focus on the nature empire skills, which can give bonuses like farms giving you more food income. In another game, you might want to focus on diplomacy and annex vassals into your empire, and you would focus on the order empire skills. But be aware that you do not need to focus on only one tree, as you can unlock multiple at the same time. However, each unlock costs Imperium, which you will need for other purposes in the game. So when it comes to the general gameplay where you'll be focusing most of your time, you'll generally focus on expanding your empire through building, diplomacy, or conquest. Other major part of the game is the battles. For battles, the game zooms the map into a tactical turn-based hex system similar to games like XCOM and Conquest of Io. You'll use different types of units and overworld spells that you have unlocked. For players who have played turn-based battles before, this system will feel very familiar. As battles unfold, you'll focus on making sure you use your action points for units effectively, focus attacks on priority enemies, use unit abilities, and focus on unit placement to ensure you're protecting your flanks. Because of the game's spell system and the hero being upgradable, spells play a huge role in battle and can mean the difference between an army that can easily win multiple battles, one that needs a retreat and reheal every turn. Another great feature about Age of Wonders 4 battles is that you can have multiple stacks of armies to create some truly epic battles. Finally, like any good 4X game, there are 4 different ways you can win a match of Age of Wonders 4. There is the military victory, where all you need to do is take out every other player. There is expansion victory. If you and your vassals own enough map territory, you can build 3 beacons of unity and defend them for 15 turns to win. There's also magical victory, which is the researching victory type. This is the same as expansion. However, instead of territory, you'll need to unlock/build 3 certain spells, then defend them for 15 turns to win. And finally, you have the score victory, where after 150 turns, player with the highest points is awarded the win. These points are decided on factors like the number of cities, armies, etc. Also, when it comes to game modes, the game has a single player where you can make your own map, it has a handful of story realms, which is a mini campaign, and it has multiplayer modes. And this summarizes a lot of the overall game. However, being a 4X game, there's still a massive amount of other mechanics and features, like the Wonders system. So if you think I missed anything major, feel free to comment below. Otherwise, let's get into more detail where Age of Wonders 4 is at its best.
The forces unleashed will shape a new age of wonders.
Just like other Paradox games, biggest part where Age of Wonders 4 stands out is in the stories that it lets players create around their own factions. In particular, the biggest point of difference of Age of Wonders 4 is its faction creation/customization systems. In most games, you'll select a pre-made faction/team with its own predefined perks and benefits. And while you can also do this in Age of Wonders, but the real depth and longevity of the game comes from the range of different options you have in creating high fantasy factions. The faction creator is not only a feature, it really is the core of the game. It lets you create and customize nearly everything in your team, from their body traits, culture, society, and even their appearance. And to the game's credit, you can see the noticeable cosmetic differences of your troops as they travel through the world map and in battles. However, faction customization goes beyond just what your units look like. Think of faction customization in this game as an in-depth RPG character creator, but for your whole army. So do you want an army of feudal felines who have stronger bow units and ride wolves into battle? Well, the game has that. Do you want to play as industrious toadkin with benefits in diplomacy who ride spiders? Well, you can make that as well. And this customization goes beyond just your faction, as you'll also customize your faction's hero, who, just like in RPGs, will level up and can be equipped with gear and spells. The possibilities of role-playing in this game with different factions you create plays a massive part of what makes Age of Wonders 4 worth playing. I've rarely seen any game that provides such levels of faction freedom in a 4X game. It truly does bring RPG mechanics into faction creation. But not only that, the game has other systems that encourage the player to experiment in creating new factions. That is the game's Pantheon system. So, you have just made your cool faction and won a match. What now? Well, after winning, you can choose to ascend your hero to the Pantheon. This means that the hero can become recruitable in other matches or may even be leading another faction. But this Pantheon system is more than just promoting your hero. It's also an account progression system where you can earn points through playing matches and completing tasks like killing enemy heroes or making the free cities, which are the neutral cities, vassals. With these points, you'll be able to unlock different weapons and cosmetics for future factions and heroes. What I really found interesting about this system is how it made it feel a little bit refreshing to be able to unlock cosmetics through gameplay and not just through microtransactions. But the biggest benefit I found with the Pantheon system is the synergy it has with faction creation. Both mechanics work together to add more replayability to the game, as they provide you with a reason to experiment and create new factions. While I didn't have to create new factions to use the Pantheon system, it created an account-wide incentive playing just one more game and making one more team. So similar to Conquest of Io, Age of Wonders 4 has players research spells to use in battle and the overworld map. And I use the word research deliberately because this system is similar to technology from other games. And this is a system I actually have mixed opinions of. Let me start off by saying I thoroughly enjoyed the uniqueness and the different tomes and how they are divided into different types of tier levels. By choosing a specific tome, it added another layer of customization to your faction that can help make each match feel that little bit different. So for one match, you may decide to start off with the Tome of Enchantment to enhance your weapons or to help increase production, while in another, you may focus on the Tome of Beast, where you can summon wild animals to support you in battle. But one major point of difference for Age of Wonders 4 is that spells are more than just using a lightning bolt to damage enemies. They also allow for the building and summoning of powerful units. So to briefly summarize this, units in the game are divided into strength/power ratings between tier 1 to tier 5. This means tier 1 troops are the weakest and tier 5 are the strongest. To gain tier 4 and 5 units, you need to research them or gain them through capturing ancient wonders. So while tomes are an interesting way of helping further customize your faction as you play, there are two reasons why some players may not enjoy them. The first issue, which is minor, is that it forces the player to use magic in the game, as you will be greatly disadvantaged if you don't. The second major issue, the lack of cultural units in tier 4 and 5. So remember before how I talked about when you create your faction you can customize the look of your units? So the units you make in the faction customization screens are generally only tier 1 to 3. This means the endgame can turn more into generic units being available to nearly every faction than the unique faction units that you created. So the concept of having non-player neutral cities is not a new feature to 4X games, but the way it is implemented in Age of Wonders 4 that provides another unknown variable to every match. So in the game, you start off with neutral cities called free cities. Once you discover a free city on the map, you can either invade them or use diplomacy to slowly build up a relationship with them. Most of the time, your goal will be to build your relationship to vassal status with that city before the other players can. Once a city is your vassal, you can make them merge into your empire or allow them to remain a vassal whose army will support you, and they'll also give you a percentage of their resources. You can also ask them to attack certain cities and recruit units from them using the game's liege system. Like I mentioned before, your vassal territory will also count as yours for expansion victory. Because of these benefits of having vassals, I will often start by sending out scouts to quickly find free cities so I can start diplomacy. Another interesting part of the vassal mechanic is that you can turn your own cities into a vassal, or once you conquer any city from a player, you can decide to merge that city into your empire, destroy it, or just turn it into a vassal. So you might be thinking, why should I camp an ally that may not even attack the enemy half the time? Well, one of the biggest benefits of vassals, well, the biggest benefit other than the free resources, is that they help create barriers against other players and allow for less micromanaging in the game. For example, in one match I had a player to my south and a player to my east. I was able to send my army south to take multiple cities and turn them into vassals. This allowed me to refocus my army to the east, knowing that if the south player decided to attack, it would give me more time to prepare. This mechanic allowed me to take 5 cities to create a barrier, and do you know what the best part is? I still gained some resources from them and did not need to micromanage them every turn. While this system is not unique to Age of Wonders, and is definitely not perfect, it allows for so much more player freedom in ensuring every game can feel that little bit different.
Through strife, champions arise.
Before talking about the however's, I first and foremost need to state that I did not have a single issue with crashes or performance while playing on an Xbox Series X, which, compared to a lot of other 4X games on console, is quite impressive. However, before I can say they have created a perfect PC port, or at least a port that works smoothly a year after release, I have to talk about the controls on console. A lot of the game's button choices and UI design choices can hinder the experience, which is surprising, noting that the previous Age of Wonders Planetfall also received a console release. Ultimately, a lot of the controls and the button layout did not feel intuitive, with different buttons used to select objects. However, the biggest issue was with the game's UI, tooltips often appearing and blocking parts of the screen. This forces you to try and navigate around it. It is a great feature that the game has a tooltip that allows you to read into keywords and get a better understanding of different mechanics. However, it starts to become more of a hassle than benefit as it blocks important information. But other than minor moments of frustration, the game is definitely playable on controller. But the console section aside, for me, there are two major however's. This first, however, will depend a lot on how you play the game, because when fighting the AI, I found a lot of the endgame would become tedious as you try to take out the enemy and they start building new instant full stack armies. Also, add in the fact that your cultural units play less of a major role, it can mean endgame can become very tedious, especially if you aim for a conquest victory. My final major, however, is more of a warning for players who are newer to the genre. Like most 4X games, the genre is known for its paid DLC. While it generally receives minor balance updates and sometimes a rare mechanic or two, the vast majority of new content, like new factions, heroes, game mechanics, would generally be released in small DLCs that usually release every couple of months. While previous games like Age of Wonders 3 and Planetfall only had a handful of bigger DLC expansions, it is still a little unknown if now that the company's under Paradox, it will receive more of a Stellaris and Crusader Kings post-launch support style of many smaller DLCs.
New unities are founded.
I started this video by asking, is Age of Wonders 4 worth playing, and how does it stand out in the 4X genre? I would say that not only is Age of Wonders 4 worth playing for fans of the genre, also stands out and provides its own unique perspective and mechanics. The game shows that even having a giant sandbox map full of different player choices, that does not mean the player choice only has to start when the map loads. Age of Wonders 4 proves that the player's choice can start in the faction selection screen, that your choice of faction can be just as meaningful as creating a character in a role-playing game. But the game's in-depth faction customization is not the only reason the game stands out. It also has the Pantheon system that provides account-wide progress and adds replayability, and most importantly, provides a level of interconnectedness between matches, which is something you rarely see. But what makes Age of Wonders 4 worth playing also goes beyond those systems, because when it comes to the core of the game, with its different victory types, the tome spells, the random event choices, and diplomacy, Age of Wonders 4 holds up to nearly any game in the genre. So, if you're looking for a 4X strategy game with turn-based battles and an in-depth faction customization, then Age of Wonders 4 might be the game for you. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe.